Making the cell phone work like a film camera, a real movie camera, was an incredibly difficult, daunting task. And it took somebody who would think outside of the box, who was a genius in his own right to make this happen. And Pat was 100% behind.
I thought you were talking about Chris.
Oh, no.
Waiting for the punchline.
So, yeah, tell him about that.
It's a Nokia N8, and I don't think it ever actually got to America. But at the time, and Hooman had discovered the phone, it has a 12-megapixel camera and a Carl Zeiss lens. Carl Zeiss is known for cinematic lens. I mean, he does some of the greatest stuff with, Ari and Fujinon. And Hooman got a hold of one off of Amazon, and it came from Finland?
Finland, yeah.
And so we went online and got an English manual and went through it. The problem with filmmaking with something like this, a consumer device, not even prosumer, is that it's all automated. The focus, the iris, the color balance. So to get past that, we had to do it externally. Ironically, shooting this film was probably more like shooting a 16 millimeter film in the 70s than it was some futuristic thing, because the camera was set and we just flooded lights to trick the camera into thinking it was always daylight. We did secondary sound, and because of Chris's involvement, we treated it like a feature film. We had secondary sound, we had makeup, we had light package, dollies, cameras, jibs. A portion of the film was shot without this adapter, when it was just focused to infinity, the helicopter shots and the wide shots, because you didn't need that shallow depth of field, and that's all this does. It's a magnifier onto ground glass, so you could put a prime lens on the front. And that's really all it is. I mean, it's connected with tape.
But every frame of the film was shot on that camera.
And can I give Pat a few more props? Because he's not going to brag about himself, so I'm going to brag about him. When you have a 35 millimeter lens that's built properly, and not to say we built it improperly, or Pat built it improperly, there's a series of mirrors. And what those series of mirrors do is they take the image that the camera's looking at and they flip and flop it so that it's right side up and intuitive instead of being upside down and counterintuitive. What Pat did is he bought a 1940s movie camera. And he knew back in the 40s they didn't have a series of mirrors in their 35 millimeter lenses either. And he took apart that film camera. And as he was taking it apart, he's like, how did they get their image to flip and flop? And he finally took apart the eyepiece. And inside the eyepiece was a rectangular prism. And that rectangular prism worked exactly like the series of mirrors. And so what Pat did was he took that eyepiece, he aimed it at the camera, and every time he shot, he had a hood over his head. So he was shooting 1940 style with 2011 technology, so no light would come in. So if you go back to the allofthemovie.com website, every shot of Pat with the hood over his head is there so that he could look through that eyepiece. And
It wasn't just an artistic flourish, it was necessary.